Hello there, and welcome to What If Mace Windu Discovered General Grievous on Geonosis. The arena of Geonosis is a world of teeth and flame. The afternoon light slants across the spires like a blade. All around the ring, 1,000 eyes watch a ritual of death. Droid ranks line terraces and platforms, and the distant hum of factories sets a low, metallic heartbeat. The Republic's rescue force has not yet cut a path through the sky, and for a handful of Jedi who have slipped beneath the surface, the dusk is narrower still. Corridors of engineered stone where shadows have weight and the air tastes of iron. Mace Windu moves with the kind of silence that commands space. His purple blade has burned down too many corridors to be a symbol. It is an instrument of resolve. He has come because of a whisper of danger, not merely the obvious peril of the arena, but a stranger chord in the force that sets his teeth on edge. He feels it as a wrongness, a mechanical cadence out of tune with living things. He follows it like a hunter. The corridors twist, sparks fall from under ruptured cables. Somewhere ahead, a different rhythm beats. A cadence of servo motors and hydraulic breath. He finds it deeper than he expected. A cavern under the foundries, glow of molten metal, painting, moving scaffolds. There, between stacks of scorched components and half-assembled frames, stands a creature the Order has not yet named. Shorter than legend, but taller in menace. 4 arms coil, each bearing a plundered saber. The torso is a patchwork of bone and chrome, a mask with reptilian slits for eyes pierced from a ruined hood. When it turns toward him, the sound that comes is not a voice, but a rasping mechanic's hiss. A sound that carries 1,000 stolen screams behind it. For a heartbeat, Windu allows a small, private astonishment. General Grievous. And yet he is less a warlord than a machine made to be terror. He is all angles and theft, a creature stitched from other men's deaths. Windu remembers stories, whispers of a Kaleesh who became a husk, of limbs replaced by steel, of trophies taken from the lights of Jedi whose names he will not speak aloud. He also remembers his oath, to face what others cannot. This is the moment that will change everything. Grievous charges with the chittering clash of gears. The first 2 sabers are a blur. The others unfurl like a spider's legs. Mace's Vaapad is not a dance to him tonight, but a storm he must walk into. The first strike lands with the clear violence of a life against metal. Windu tests rhythm and finds it wrong. Twice Grievous spins, catching a jet of plasma from an errant droid and turning it back as if the light were thrown by a child's hand. The blades, stolen, crude, and desperate, bear the marks of other souls. Windu tastes something acidic in the Force. Theft. He does what he always must. He opens a door inside himself that he has learned never to leave unlocked, and he lets Vaapad come. Vaapad is a blade to face the blade, a wind to push against the hurricane. It is not merely a form, it is Mace lets the storm come, and then channels it down to a point. The whole becomes sound and spark. Metal screams. The cyborg's arms beat with the rhythm of a dread machine. Windu's purple blade burns arcs through smoke and shadow. Grievous fights as one possessed by the lessons of many slaughtered knights. Erratic, wide-angled, a 4-armored storm of different styles. He is unpredictable because his movement is the sum of stolen forms. He is strong because he has no fear of death. He is nothing but vector and kill. Mace is slower at first, collecting counterpoints, the geometry of Vaapad folding in slow, perfect arcs around a mass of dangerous improvisation. Then Mace adapts. One careful parry, a forced misstep guided by a force lift, a soft reposition into an exposed joint. The sound of metal parting is ugly and final. Grievous staggers. Electrical arcs shudder through him. For the first time, the thing that was training and terror registered the accident. terrible truth of being a body. Windu's blade is not careless, he drives it, purple burning through galvanized steel and scorched fiber. Sparks bloom like angry stars. The warlord collapses into twisted scrap. The noise as the foundry dims as if the whole place is listening for what will happen next. Windu breathes slow. He touches the fallen machine's ruined helm. The force around the corpse is bitter and cold, a hollow where a man once was. The Jedi Master does not triumph. He simply stands and holds under the terrible clarity of what he has done. This kills nothing less than the idea that monsters can be hidden forever. Windu carries the knowledge with him, a weight heavier than any blade. When Mace Windu walks back into the light above, he carries more than news. He carries a grave, undeniable shape of the enemy. The arena is still a maelstrom, but the gunships cut through it like flint. Word travels as only emergency can make it, and the council gathers with a kind of urgency rare even for war. On Coruscant, the news strikes like lightning through the council chambers. Yoda's tiny head dips, his ears fold as if listening to a memory that is not entirely public. Obi-Wan tightens his jaw. The room does not know a name yet. The transcripts from the field are technical, dispassionate. When Windu finally speaks, he says what he saw and what that implies. A warlord constructed, not born of metal and murder. A designer's work to plague the Order. He speaks of the forearm geometry, the stolen blades, the deadlights behind a mask. He says the most terrible thing plainly. This is not merely Separatist engineering. This is the hand of something more cunning. Silence answers him. A silence that tastes like recognition. Dooku's impossible face appears in transcripts the Jedi have of him. A man with a past and the mannered voice of an aristocrat. Windu's report makes Dooku's hand look less like the hand of a politician and more the forearm of an engineer in cruelty. The council feels it, a knot of cold that says, if this is true, then someone is treating death as a craft. Palpatine's sitting room on Coruscant is a different kind of quiet. In public, he lights the Senate with honeyed warnings about the Separatist threat. In private, his smile thins. Dooku receives a message with the sort of indecipherable composure only a Sith can muster. On the holo screen, Windu's face flickers like a ghost. Palpatine's private voice is something like a knife. Grievous was a shield and a symbol, he says. You must compensate, Count. Dooku's reply is thin as ash. Consider it done, he murmurs, and already his mind is working as a chessboard. Meanwhile, at the front, the effect is immediate. The news that a living myth has fallen travels to clone ranks and Senate balconies with equal velocity. The Republic breathes a little deeper. A soldier in a distant barrack grins because terror has a face you can defeat. A senator on Coruscant feels a pressure lift because the public appetite for victory has been sated in a small, brutal way. The Separatists find themselves no longer afforded the impunity of a myth. But myths are not built from single deaths. They are stitched from policy and patience. Mace's blade only opens a door. What lies behind it is an architecture of deceit. The Council acts with the cautious speed of an organism that has felt the teeth of a predator. Hooked into the greatest network the galaxy can offer, Plo Koon's intelligence sells behind sifting corridors of trade. The Jedi do what they must. They follow money as if it were a blood trial. Where wealth flows to death, the hand that steers it reveals itself. Anakin watches. He sees Mace not as a remote tribunal, but as a man who stood where others could not. The memory fills him with complicated impulses. Admiration, the small ache of an ego tempered. Windu remains, for Anakin, a figure to revere and to learn from. For a time, the centrifugal pull toward the dark that had gnawed at him finds its core anchored by someone who did not flinch in the face of a nightmare. Between victories, the Senate turns its eyes to the horizon of a new war. Palpatine, no longer able to rely on the mythology of an unstoppable general to keep Spainless fear alive, begins to weave differently. He turns to policy, to emergency acts written in a palpable language, to committees that smell of necessary oversight. But even as he adjusts, his anger is sharp. He leans more than ever into the soft art of insinuation with Anakin, whispering the language of destiny and plan. He will not allow the loss of his chosen piece to be meaningless. Grievous's death makes the footprint through the Clone Wars the way a stone throws ripples across a lake. Without its terror to sweep systems bare, the Separatist line experiences the strange new constraint of being merely mortal. Their advantage slow, their lightning strikes require more planning, and their charisma evaporates like breath in cold. The Republic's military advantage is not instantaneous. The galaxy is a complex loom. Systems still tremble beneath occupation. Coruscant still smells of politics and the thin, metallic tang of factories. But the tactical picture shifts. Republic commanders treat Grievous as a missing link. Without him, the droid armies cannot coordinate thunderous wide strikes as they once did. They can still fight, and they fight with dreadful efficiency. But the inspiration of having a creature that returned with stolen blades has vanished. Mace Windu becomes more than a comparator of technique. He becomes a strategist. Where he once argued in the council with a voice sharp and decisive, now his opinions carry the added weight of a man who has seen the underbelly of the enemy. He presses for intelligence reforms, for a network of watchmen who can find the screws in the machine Sidious has built. He pushes the Order away from a model of solitary heroics and toward a structure more complex, more like a shield. Plo Koon is instrumental in this shift. He builds modules of investigation and a quiet, stubborn bureaucracy with the temple that treats evidence like a blade. It is methodical and dull. It does not make for the theater the politicians prefer, but it makes for results. Jedi who once scoffed at paperwork now brief clones on urban camouflage codes and the hiding places of bankers. Anakin participates with a ferocity that is not only about proving himself, it is about wanting to protect others from the random ugly fates he has seen. The Separatists, forced into a new posture, try to adapt. Dooku is forced into the field more often. He becomes on some nights less the distant philosopher and more the desperate tactician. He runs campaigns, but they are nerve-wracking, the kind that reveals weakness. The Republic seizes opportunities. Jedi pair with clone captains, not in a ritual, but as a real bond, learning each other's habits. Anakin and Obi-Wan become a blades pair, where one hesitates, the other steps. They begin to trust in a way that makes them better and less reckless. Without Grievous to channel horror, Palpatine's political maneuvers become subtler, and therefore more dangerous. He seeks longer hours of authority rather than a single sweeping emergency decree that requires a monstrous face to sell. He seeds committees with loyal men. He makes sound legal acts that slice jurisdiction toward executive powers leniently. He becomes patient as a shadow. But being patient does not make him invincible. Each victory the Jedi and the Republic secure is a chisel on his edifice. Small, coordinated arrests of supply networks and the exposure of corrupt officers begin to stitch together a picture that points not at an external mastermind among the Separatists, but toward the heart of the Republic's own capital. There are still violent days. Planets burn, Jedi die, attrition remains the terrible atramic of war. But the tempo of the Clone Wars changes. Battles at Christophsis and Mon Cala are still fierce. But they are won not by sudden genius, but by prepared strategy, intelligence, and a republic that begins to refuse panic. The clones fight with clarity. City by city, system by system, the republic grinds their separatist engines. And in the quiet nights, senators and clerks and aides count bodies and money, because they now sense that you can follow one to find the other. The structural reforms in the temple continue. Younglings are taught not only to wield a saber, but to read ledgers. Masters that once preferred the sanctity of meditation now accept the necessity of messy politics. The Jedi adopt a new maxim. Balance includes civic responsibility as much as spiritual restraint. It is a painful change. Many balk, some leave. Those who remain are made into something the galaxy needs. Dooku grows increasingly raw. Without the aura of an unstoppable monster in the sky, the Count fears the most honest terror a commander can feel. Being outmaneuvered, he tries to restore lore by issuing propaganda. using the charismatic force of his voice to paint the Jedi as warmongers. It wrinkles the patience of some systems, but not enough to recover what he has lost. Palpatine senses the danger in the slow, methodical unmasking of his network. He tightens the screws, he accelerates secret shipments, and hides payments in the thickest of legal motions he once used to hold the Senate. But the Jedi's new methods, slow, executive, procedural, are perfectly suited to untangling such a knot. Each trace of money is a thread. Plo Koon and a cadre of masters follow each one for the bureaucracy. Their work is unromantic and unglamorous, but it is lethal. Anakin is at a turning point. He has lost the old fuel of resentment that once made him reckless. Windu's presence, the killing of the monstrous Grievous, the reform in the Jedi Order, all teach him that there is a way to channel rage into protection. Still, he is a man made of contradictions. He loves Padme and worries for her safety. He wants justice and hates injustice. He continues to be Palpatine's golden boy in private audiences because the Chancellor never relinquishes a chance to whisper. He is tempted in small, clever ways, but the big, explosive moment that once would have shattered him and less likely to strike now. Anakin has two anchors, Obi-Wan's steady faith and Mace Windu's example of the warrior scholar. On the strategic front, the Jedi coordinate with the Republic's intelligence apparatus to strike at Dooku's supply lines. A captured courier confronts the routes, and the Jedi swing into motion. The operation that captures Dooku is not a stunt, but a culmination, a siege of precision, a legal scaffold, and a public tribunal designed to undress the Count in front of the galaxy. The capture is a humiliation to a man who believed himself above such things. When Dooku falls, it is not in a poetic duel staged by a Sith grand plan. He falls under the weight of a methodical work, of testimony and wire transfers, and the interception freight manifests. The Count's last words are a brittle blend of aristocratic pride and the uncoiled anger of a falling man. His death does not make for a feeder like the old tragedies because the Jedi have resigned justice to be dull and unvettable. The crowd watches as a system once used to hide him now shows his face. The air is not dramatic, it is clean, but the capture is only a hinge. Dooku falls, but the head of the snake remains hidden. The spine of Palpatine, the quiet engineer and the seat of power, still breathes. With Dooku captured and the Separatist structure fraying, the Jedi escalate their approach to the highest risk. They assemble a coalition of legal, military, and moral weight to confront the Chancellor's corruption. This is not a mad rush, but a careful siege of perception. The Senate, bloodied and exhausted, is now more receptive to evidence than to rhetoric. Plo Koon and a handful of courageous senators construct a case that points to fullness of contracts, shell corporations, and bankworks, a network of deeds that leads to Patience Street and to Palpatine's private office. Palpatine has spent decades cloaking himself in civility. He expected to be unmasked at the worst possible moment. When the public was tired and would welcome even a authoritarian rescue, he misjudged the Republic's endurance. The confrontation is surgical. The Jedi do not storm the Chancellor's office in a madman's rush, but present evidence that is easy to digest and impossible to dismiss. They bring witnesses, bankers, logistics, officers, and clones who are told to reroute troop movements. The public watch, and the Senate cannot simply clap its hands and say nothing. For the first time, Palpatine finds himself unable to conjure gravity from fear. He lashes out, theoretically. In a session designed to persuade the public, he declares a threat, gesturing to the Senate as if they were fodder for a play. He expects gasps, a surge of support, and perhaps a new charter to bind the Republic's power in his hands. Instead, the Jedi present facts, ledgers, timestamps, contracts. The cameras relay it. The people hear and read. The chant for visibility rises, not of fear, but of inquiry. Sidious makes a desperate, last-ditch play. He tries to escape. As any creature used to contingency would, he reaches for hidden exits, secret craft, a ship burst in the dead of night. The Jedi have anticipated the possibility. They do not need battle speeches to put together the right people. Obi-Wan coordinates units, clones drawn from commanders whose loyalty to law over a single man is proven. Anakin leads a boarding team like a blade. Together, they cut off the Chancellor's exit. When Palpatine is revealed, brought before the tribunal, stripped of the ceremonial power that wrapped him like a cloak, the Republic sees a private, small man who had used trust as a tool. There is no grand lightning storm of Sith beater, there is testimony, shuffling lawyers, and the whimper of recorded messages. It is bureaucratic, painfully thorough, and utterly fatal for Palpatine. The charm that once offered him to power loses its effect when the public can see the ledgers that funded wars and the speeches that hid profit in the shadows. He is arrested, trialed, and convicted for treason in an era that prefers process to theoretically. The public reaction is chaotic, riots flare, powerful interests resist, but the institutions the Jedi helped to strengthen do not break. The Republic begins long reforms to prevent such concentration of power again. The Chancellor's private will, once a wrecking ball, is rendered into a small tragedy of a man who believed himself beyond scrutiny. In the quiet after the verdict, the Jedi do not exult in vengeance. They are wary, not exultant. Mace Windu stands in a ruined room and looks out on Coruscant, feeling the weight of the city. He understands that their victory has been won not by spectacle, but by stubbornness, by the boring, excellent work of law and patient inquiry. He had killed a monster in the Battle of Geonosis. He had watched the net close on an architect who used monsters for shadows. The arc of his mind is not to crow, but to consider the cost. And now they had the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Sidious, frozen in carbonite beneath the Jedi Temple for ages to come. War wounds do not vanish in a season. Planets will need to rebuild, veterans will stagger through forms of reconciliation, and kidnapped rings and profiteers will not vanish overnight. The Republic is tired and weary. The Jedi are changed in a way few imagined. Plo Koon becomes a figure who embodies the new era. He does not want statues, he wants charters. He drafts public protections, seeks judicial checks and executive authority, and insists the Temple teach civic duty. The Council, humbled, accepts much of this. Yoda teaches the old lessons while acknowledging the need for new ones. He speaks of balance, not as the triumph of combat, but as the steady, ordinary work of institutions and compassion. Anakin Skywalker is not perfect. He has scars. He carries memories and the fireplace of private grief, but he does not become what Sidious had hoped. He becomes a leader, a master, and a teacher in the New Order. His marriage to Padme continues, clandestine but loved. He channels his identity into defending systems, training novices and rebuilding communities. The day-to-day contentment of his life is not perfect drama, but it is preventing the catastrophic spiral the older tale required. Obi-Wan finds a quieter life as a teacher and diplomat, moving between the Outer Rim and the Old Core to stitch peace agreements and mediate disputes. He sits by the makeshift fires of the communities and meets younglings who will never have to learn to die for a myth. He had learned how to be a human and how to be steady. Mace, he is older, and the storm within him quiets. He does not cave titles. He writes, he trains, and he sits in the council as one who has seen horror and refused to let narrative rule the world. In the Temple, he is the center of a movement that sees the Jedi as guardians of fragile democracies, not rulers of them, but their steady defense. The Separatist movement fractures without the menace that had long railed it. Grievous had been a symbol. Once a symbol is gone and Dooku is captured, the great engines of the war become small conflicts. Satellite networks, droid factories, local warlords, each is methodically dissembled. The Republic rebuilds, slowly and painfully, but with structures in place to ensure accountability. War profiteers are brought to trial, systems once corrupted by the siphons of secret purchases are re-audited. There is still the scourge of violence, but it is no longer coordinated by a hidden hand that can shape fate. The Jedi change too. The Order becomes more decentralized, teaching law and civic duty as much as meditation and swordplay. They do not become governors, but counselors, protectors, negotiators, and teachers. The clones are slowly integrated into the Republic's defense architecture as citizens and veterans rather than living weapons. A fragile reconciliation begins. There is no Order 66, there is no repressive empire. There is a republic that knows its own fragility and a Jedi Order that has learned the pride of myth. Years after the battles that carved the maps anew, Coruscant breathes more easily. On the steps of the rebuilt temple, apricots and green plantings have returned. Children run. Statues of those who fell line the approach. Ominous faces, each carved not to inspire to worship, but remembrance. Mace Windu's face is among them. It is carved without anger, but without softening. Lines, honest. He looks as he did the day he bent in the foundry. Guarded, patient, ready. Anakin teaches a cohort of younglings how to steady breathe and find balance between passion and restraint. Obi-Wan runs a diplomatic guild that meditates disputes in the Outer Rim. Plo Koon oversees an academy that teaches citizens to resist the small corruptions that once fed war. The Republic turns in upon itself, mends the holes that greed had torn. There is also something lighter. Markets hum. Moons that once bore firing lines now bear vineyards and marketplaces, and the clones whose lives had been weapons became veterans, citizens who teach, trade, and lend muscle to reconstruction, not demolition. One morning, Mace and Anakin walk the garden in silence. They do not need speeches, they only need the small facts, the hum of children, the distant chime of dockyard, the warmth of a light on their faces. The war had been long, and the cost had been terrible, but they had done with what they believed. The Jedi had sharpened institutions and conscience, rather than cavil and myth. Mace stops before the statue of Windu and lays a hand on cool stone. "We did not win by rage," he says. "We won by refusing to be fooled." Anakin smiles, the smile of a man who has learned that strength without restraint is not strength at all. We learned. At the edge of the garden, a small child looks up at them with bright eyes and asks a simple question. Will the bad men ever come back? Anakin and Mace glance at each other. The older man crouches, meeting the child's gaze. "Bad men will always try," he says. "But we built a place where they find the light. That's our work." He straightens. "And your work will be to keep it." The days that follow are not cinematic. They're slow work of civilization, but they're enough. A single change in a hardened world can run like a crack through a canyon. Mace Windu standing in the dark foundry and driving his blade through a warlord made of scrap is only one such change, but the ripples are not merely tactical, they're moral. Grievous's death on Geonosis forced a different set of choices. Reforms in the temple, patience in the council, scrutiny in the senate. It took away the speed-bent hinge Palpatine relied on, and replaced it with a slow, legal net. That net, unglamorous and president, tore holes in a master plan that depended on terror and theoretically. The Republic proved not to be so easily caged, and its institutions were strengthened, and the Jedi remade themselves not as rulers, but as guardians. The Sith who favored grand gestures and quick fury found less purchase in a world that demanded evidence and process. In the end, the triumph is not a single jewel, but the long, tedious human work of mending broken things. It is Anakin's redirection, Obi-Wan's patience counsel, Plo Koon's laws, Yoda's lessons, and Mace's blade that together create a future where the galaxy never descended into empire. The Sith do not vanish into myth. Their threat dims and becomes a cautionary tale. The Jedi survive, changed and wiser. The cost is real. Lives lost, families broken, scars left behind. But the story ends with a sunrise that belongs to a republic which has learned the price of liberty and a Jedi Order that has learned the value of the ordinary work that keeps tyranny at bay. Mace Windu never wanted the glory that comes with myths. He wanted the quiet line of duty done well. On Geonosis, when he faced a monster no one had yet named, he acted. The universe, stubborn and strange, answered in ways that neither prophecy nor politician could have forced. In the soft light of a new morning, the galaxy wounded and awake, kept the lesson alive. The blade had cut the monster. The patient minds had got the network. Balance, at last, leaned toward the light. And that is it for What If Mace Windu discovered General Grievous on Geonosis. Very interesting what if in my opinion. I hope you guys enjoyed. Made it half an hour. I'm trying to aim for like longer what ifs now. Like at least 20 minutes. At least 20-minute what ifs. This is half an hour, so I'm proud of this one. And I do have some what ifs coming up that are going to be like 40 minutes plus in the near future. So yeah. Anyway, if you guys subscribe. If you guys enjoyed, subscribe. And if you did, well, subscribe. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. When we do, we're going to do a face reveal on the channel, and all my friends are going to do that as well. Join the Discord server, link in the description. There we talk everything from Star Wars, games, movies, and more. Leave suggestions down below on what you guys want to see in the future on the channel. Really, what if suggestions, anything. Comment what you thought about this what if, any opinions you got. And yeah, like the video, turn notifications on. Join the Discord server, as I said. If you want to support the channel and get exclusive perks, consider joining our Patreon. Link is in the description down below. And I enjoyed this what if a lot. Mysterious again. Really up to the viewer to decide a lot of the stuff happening. What you think. Like, Maul wasn't mentioned at all. It's really up to you to decide. And I did slightly mention what happened to Sidious. But yeah. Anyway. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Mr. Voz. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. Between the pulse of light and shadowed breath, there lies a place where time forgets itself, not bound by what has been, nor what must come, but by the faintest whisper of choice. A single thread pulled and the galaxy bends. Here, destinies twist like sparks in the void, heroes falter, villains rise, and every path you thought was certain shivers and fractures, revealing the infinite could have beens. Step closer, listen to the silent echoes. Every star you see could burn another way, every shadow could hide a truth unseen. And in this space, your imagination is the only limit. Welcome to the place where what if reigns. Hey, you didn't watch it? Well, check out the video on the left side of the screen, which is specifically recommended for you, or check out the playlist on the right of the screen, which contains similar videos to this one, made by me, of course. Hey, remember, subscribe.